Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have some good news. Not only did I want to have this moment of reflection, but it's important to share the good news. Um, the near future, our meeting was postponed, so it's actually a good thing. Sometimes we travel and stuff like that, things like that happens. I totally get it. I travel all the time. I'm an artist. That's what we do. Um, I still wanted to have a moment of reflection. Let me adjust this a little bit. I try not to mess with it too much or as much as I can. But this is why it's kind of good to to have these moments. In psychology, there's a term that is used and it's called allowing an empty space to fill itself. Today is one of those days for me as a content creator where there's so many variables, right? There's so many things going on. And you may feel that, let's say, creating content is like playing baseball, right? You don't know how, if, or when you're going to hit it out the park. You don't know in what direction things are going to go. For example, today I had to do the radio show and the podcast by default by doing everything on YouTube and kind of building from there. It was a good moment to reflect because little by little, everybody that was important to me has been involved. From the business meeting where I reached out to one of my advisors, which is also a family member and a friend, to everything that I learned in the first business meeting with the first investment firm, to what happened afterwards, to being able to reflect on that. It's very hard at times to push against the ether, especially when people don't have your background, your education, and your training. One of the things that happens often is when we have advanced or higher level of education, we presumably always assume that it is the same for others, that others have the same drive and motivation to further expand, you know, whatever their way of processing things are through an education or ongoing education. And it takes quite a bit of adjustment to understand that that's not always the situation, is not always the case. You can look at it at the most basic level, you can look at it from a global perspective. As you travel the world, you deal with different people, different cultures and backgrounds, and you kind of are able to see clearer and you're able to kind of adjust better to how it is for other people. For my loved ones, it's very challenging, it's very difficult to even accept the concept of dreams come true and anything is possible. There's something that I know that is important, and subconsciously, I don't want to abbreviate. But because I know that it's essential, I know that that's where the breakthrough is hiding. So we're going to talk about it. This is the concept of depression. Very recently, I found myself in one of the darkest tunnels of the mind. I could find no sense of relief, no sense of escape, no sense of comfort. Little by little, I used a lot of different tactics to rebuild myself to the point where I can even have this open discussion, even though my mind is on preserving my voice and recording music, which is what I'm going to do when I finish this. But I didn't want to do that until I finished this. I didn't want to start another creative process without first addressing these things. One of the best pieces of advice that I can give to any entrepreneur, any human being, is to know, understand, and conceptualize the dangers of being in those dark tunnels of the mind. Because you have to look at them for what they truly are. They're just tunnels. There is a way out of them. You can be very vulnerable while you're passing through those tunnels. Understanding that is your greatest weapon to yield, to defend yourself, to be your armor and your shield, as well as your offensive weapon of choice. As dark as it may seem, there is always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. I believe that the greatest advantage, the greatest armor that you can have is to surround yourself with positivity, positive people, places, things, circumstances, no matter what challenges you're facing. Life is not perfect. Things don't always go the way that we planned. But I know that there's a very high percentage of things that can be looked upon in a positive way. Even though the negative things are a smaller percentage, they also don't necessarily have to be at a disadvantage. You have to look at those variables of negativity, even as small as they are, can be, as a formidable foe because they're threatening the 95, the 96, the 97% of things that you have going on for yourself. When you're able to climb out of that darkness, right, those tunnels, use your greatest abilities by reflecting on everything that you learned going through those tunnels. Let your first call to action be to spread that love and support and that positivity to others. Because what happens is you start building the link to a chain, and one person is able to help 12 people. And then those 12 people are also able to help 12 more people. Now you have 144 people fighting. You know that there's a chain that exists. People face challenges every day. Those amazing, great success stories face the biggest challenges. Look at the challenge as an adventure. Let that be your motivation and your motivational common denominator. Let that be the X factor for you to succeed. It doesn't matter what the challenge is, the product, the service, the industry, the trade. It doesn't matter where you are in your career as an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter where you are in life as a human being. Just know that there's always going to be an opportunity to create a greater good. Understanding that there should be very little that can ever get close enough to you to create or cause any damage. And it's important for me to share that because I do feel in much better spirits. There were many people that I was able to help online, and many people also helped me throughout that process. Now, when I look back to some of the things that I wrote or that I shared when I posted online, I feel that I'm in a completely different universe. I also see how dangerous it was and can be and is to feel the hopelessness of not understanding a situation. I extracted the good from it and was able to make it relatable for the average person. Because deep down inside, I know that anything is possible and I know that dreams come true. Today has been a valuable lesson for all of my loved ones, including my children, but especially my loved ones. Every single day, as a psychologist, as a doctor, with a concentration on the front lobe cerebral cortex, early childhood development, being in charge of a beautiful family that's extremely intelligent, creative, and artistic, but that also can be very hurtful, very mean, very abusive, very neglectful. I try my best to provide an example, in a sense, an indirect therapy to show them that their behavior is not justified based on their scars or their wounds, and that the way to heal those wounds is to also directly and indirectly, meaning consciously and subconsciously, healing the wounds of others. To become a billionaire is a very simple formula. Solve the problems of billions of people, and your problems will go away. By you helping to soothe those pains, those wonder years, those moments of a lack of understanding, by bringing clarity to certain key points about life, you're also bringing clarity about certain key points of your own life and your own existence. If you teach somebody resilience, it only strengthens your resilience. If you teach somebody technology or business, it only sharpens your knowledge of technology and business. All of these things are important and they are essential because we are one. Your experience is no different than the experience of the average person. What sets you apart is that you're able to build the bridge of relationships where people can relate to your perspective and where you're coming from, to break through, to pull through in a situation where there may not be a course or a book for someone to just pick up and read, where there may be a person absent in the structural nucleus of their life to provide that support and that understanding. There is no right and wrong, there is no left and right. But the power of love, the power to care, the power to show sympathy is extremely important because I believe in my heart that is what makes you a human being. A lot of the concepts that we constantly discuss are very challenging for all of the people that I love, from my children to my family members to my relatives. We are made up of cells and atoms and all these other energy fields, right? We know through science that just by basically observing these atoms, it changes the way that they behave. Many people do things consciously and subconsciously, but the fact that it's documented changes the quantum level and physical level, the spiritual level of things. For example, if I have an insecurity, I know that the answer to my breakthrough is to do the opposite. I'm afraid of heights, so I go skydiving. I make it a point to make it a journey, to make it a challenge, not for the world to see for myself, because there is the growth. There's the breakthrough. I'm afraid of loss, I give everything up. You're afraid to go swimming in the water, you start swimming in the ocean, not just in the pool or in an infinity pool. People can be pushed and driven to an extreme where they themselves have no other choice but to push through to that breakthrough. So, what happens when one idea or one thought that is positive floods the mind of a person that overall thinks in a negative way? Everything changes. That one positive thought becomes like a match being lit in the darkness or like a light bulb being turned on. Think about how bright it must have been to turn on the first light bulb, connecting it to the first power socket in the first industrial strength, industrial grade, commercially available for use lamp that wasn't fueled by, the fat of a whale, for example. We all have these opportunities to have these breakthroughs. Maybe for today, the picture isn't completely clear. Maybe I don't understand 100% of the spectrum, but I have a good 90 something percent where there is understanding, where I see the rest that I don't understand as potential for me to learn. I have to be careful with my thoughts, my gestures, my words, my actions, my tonality in all the things that I do. As hard as I work on educating myself every single day, every minute, every hour, every second of every day, I have to also overcompensate and leave a room for understanding. I know that I overwhelm all of my loved ones. I know that I overwhelm my family members and my peers and my friends and my colleagues, etc. And that's okay to embrace that, to understand that they may not understand 12 out of 12 lectures, but if they can understand 8 or 9, it is still a step in progress in the correct direction. I believe in the rules of success that you find in all holy scriptures. It starts with one, then two, then three. And then from there, you can build everything. You can build 3 pillars to build a structure, but with just one more, you can build something that is more stable. It's just an expansion of those initial 3. You have to love, you have to care, you have to have the drive and the motivation to continue to push forward. And a small breakthrough, no matter how small it is still a very essential and important breakthrough. There is no such thing as the perfect storm. As much as I may want, I'm never going to have the perfect background, the perfect seating arrangement, the perfect camera, cell phone, laptop, whatever. But as long as I try my single best every single time, progress will be made. I'm not just letting things fall out of the sky. I'm not just waiting for the common consensus of the status quo. I'm pursuing the universe myself. I'm traveling through time in the galaxies. I'm reaching out for opportunities, people, places, and things. I'm selecting to run my life and my businesses and my investments the way that I do. This is not just what I do. This is who I am. This is my love. It's my passion. If I believe in pursuing your dreams, if I know it has made the complete difference in my life, if I wish nothing but better, equally the same for all my loved ones, I'm going to voice my opinion. If I see that you can be entrepreneur of the year, designer of the year, athlete of the year, actor, actress of the year, and I see that greatness inside of you, I'm going to push you to cultivate that and to develop that and to build up the strength just like you would building muscle in a gym environment. All of those things are extremely important because people have to know and have to understand that I deal with the same insecurities as everybody else. Yet I have to push and pull and power through. It doesn't mean that you may not have butterflies when you're creating content. What about when I'm teaching a class online? Sometimes I have 5,000 students connected at the same time. I don't have to view that as a negative. I view it as a positive. It's my motivation. I got to give the best class, whether it's business, technology, psychology, the law, medicine, whatever it is that we're discussing for the moment. What sets me apart is that I still do it. Recording music, most of my equipment is portable. Anywhere there's an environment where I can be creative, where I can just flow and get into my flow state, into my production state, I have to go there. I don't have the luxury to say, well, I only record at the Palms in Las Vegas at Interscope. I don't have the luxury to just call Miss Lisa and say, Miss Lisa, I need to book out a block of 16 hours. Sometimes I may have to write an article for Future Tech Plus on an airplane or at the airport or while I'm waiting in between flights, maybe while the jet is refueling. I may have to record the podcast and the radio show at the same time. I may have to do it in a Tesla. I may have to do it in a private jet. I may have to do it in a sports car. It may be a Corvette. It may be something else. It may be a hardtop. It may be a Spider. It may be a new one. It may be a 2020 Corvette 8th generation Stingray. It doesn't matter. The variables are unknown. We don't know what they are, what they were, what they're going to be. That's the wild card. What can stay the same is you. This is important because I know how hard and how difficult it can be for people to create content, how challenging it is. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be belittled. You don't want to be put down. And it happens all the time. As a matter of fact, statistics shows most of it is going to come from the people that are closest to you, the people that you love and care for the most, the people where you seek the highest level of understanding, the people that you view should essentially, theoretically, want the utmost best and the most success for you. Those are the first people to remove their support. That's one of the toughest lessons to learn, but you have to learn that lesson and use it to build the future that you want, not to destroy you, not to leave you stuck behind. I'll give you an example. You're an entrepreneur, you have an amazing gift when it comes to cooking. You create a franchise based on product services, demand in a specific market. You repeat the formula. Now it's really battle tested and proven because you're able to penetrate five, six, seven, eight, who knows, a dozen different markets. All you could want is the love and support that you never received from your loved ones. Maybe when it was just an idea before you fried your first, you know, 24 pieces of chicken. Now you own a dozen franchises or 24 franchises. Who knows? Who knows what God has in store for you in the future? Yet it is your loved ones, your family members, your relatives, your friends, your peers, your colleagues that refuse to patronize your business. That can crush most people. And as a matter of fact, it really does. But I want you to understand this. Your cooking, your chicken, your product, your service, your restaurant, your franchise is not for everybody. It may very well be that it is not for your loved ones, your family members, your colleagues, your friends, and your peers. Sometimes you have family that will say hurtful things just because they feel entitlement or they feel justified. You know what? Your chicken franchise is good, but my chicken is better than yours. Yeah, I like your macaroni and cheese, but my mashed potatoes and gravy is better. It doesn't matter if you have one franchise or a food truck or just a catering service. It doesn't matter if you have 1 dozen locations or 1,000, you know, dozens of locations. For some people, it will never be good enough. Maybe you don't have the $40 million mansion, but maybe you have the $10 million mansion of your dream. For some people, it will never be enough. Some people will buy a base model Stingray Corvette and thumbs up and kudos to them. It may be what fulfills their heart. You will have friends and family, especially the frenemies and the fake ass fucked up family members, say, you know what? It's not an E-Ray, electric all-wheel drive, hybrid. You know what? It's not a Z06 track variant. It's not a ZR1. Some of the greatest moments for your growth and for you to establish resilience is to be able to overlook that. Think about the super sports star athlete or actress or actor or business mogul with a cult like following all over the world, different markets, different cultures, different political structures, different backgrounds, different favorite foods and cultures and arts and sciences and music and etc. You cannot allow yourself to go into the comments of, let's say, your social media and focus on the peanut gallery of a few hundred or even a few thousand people that are saying nothing but hurtful things. When you have millions of people that patronize your business or businesses, that love your products and your services, that appreciate who you are, you cannot overlook that love for the hatred that is being gifted to you because it is a gift. It is a moment of growth. That's like you living in a small town and you know you have the best, pizza parlor, and they write about you during the cultural festival for delicacies. And now somebody that you love, that you care for, that you would do anything for, that may be a source of inspiration, that you love to a default, that you want to understand what you're doing. You cannot let that person's negative comments stop what you're doing because the moment that you kill your dreams, they win. And it's not just them, it's that thought. It's the frequency of that negative feeling. Broken people come from a broken place, and all they do is break people. Hurt people come from a hurt place, and all they do is hurt people. The people that are highly misunderstood are the most critical and the most judgmental. That is the root cause of their ulcer. Their pain is being so vindictive within themselves. So it's a language that they have picked up. And when you come with your product and your service and your positivity, you're a threat to their system. They killed their dreams. How dare you have a dream? They killed their motivation to pursue greatness. How dare you try to pursue greatness? What makes you so special? What makes you so different? You're not above them. They want you to be successful, but not more successful than they are. That is abusive behavior. Nobody deserves to go through that. Be very careful with those family members. Be very careful with those relatives. Be very careful with those friends. Those are not your family members. Those are not your relatives. They don't love you, and those are definitely not your friends. No one should have the power over you to make you feel like less than. The world is beautiful, huge, and vast, full of nothing but potential. Dreams come true because we have proof. Everywhere you look around you. When you drive by a franchise, you know that was somebody's dream. And they worked so hard to finally make that franchise a world renowned brand or name. That is proof that if that person did it, overcoming all of the challenges that that person from their generation had to overcome, it's proof that it's possible. Why can it not be the same for you? People watch television every day. People go on the internet every day. They listen to the radio every day in their car, in their smart devices, etc. You hear countless stories of people that are successful in all walks of life, in all parts of the world. There are success stories all around you if you have an open mind and heart to look for those things. You could go into any shopping center, any supermarket, any retail box store, whatever, and you're going to see product after product, service after service. Those are all people that at one point started with nothing, had a dream. Why is it a language that some of the people that you love refuse to speak or understand? I'll give you the example with the restaurant franchise. If I say I want to open up a pizza parlor or a chicken wing spot or a fried chicken spot, why is it fair for me to have relatives to say, "What are you talking about? So you're going to fry chicken? You're going to make pizzas now?" It's those subtle stealth attacks, the little comments, the little gestures is really the spew of that negative thought. How is that fair to any human being? As an entrepreneur, don't you ever let any of those things take you out of your success mode, take you away from your clearly written and defined goals, take you away from the things that make you special and unique and truly who you are. Take away from your aspirations, your goals, and your dreams on your beautiful dream board. Be specific, have intent. Don't just tell the higher power, I want a house. Tell the higher power, I want this house. Go to the realtor, go to the open house, walk through the house, see what it feels like, see what it smells like, sit in the furniture, take a piece of the grass, chew on it, put a piece of it in your pocket, put it in your car's dashboard, put it in your office. Keep that dream alive because that dream, that intent is what's going to drive you consciously, directly, or subconsciously, indirectly, left hand hemisphere, right hand hemisphere of the brain towards that goal. Surround yourself with people that are like minded individuals, that are go getters, pursuers of their dreams. Stay away from the dream killers. You don't need them. Nobody deserves to be in that chamber of abuse. The world and life is already challenging as it could possibly be. Every time you raise a garden, there's going to be weeds that are going to come to destroy your garden. And if you let them, they will eat your garden. If you let one person take away from the greatness that God put inside of you, that you are one of a kind, that dreams come true, that anything is possible, that if it happened to the franchise down the street, it can happen to you. You lose everything because all negative people need is an opportunity to start prying away at your beautiful mind, your beautiful soul, and your beautiful heart, and your beautiful spirit. Be very careful with those dream killers. Today was a prime example for me, and I take this opportunity to share it with all of you. I could have been bummed out, depressed, upset, angered, all these negative things. I said, nope, I'm going to look for the positive in all these things. As a matter of fact, it took up most of my creative time. Towards the end of today, I'll have time to write an article and work on some music, and then the rest is just, you know, logistics and telecommunications, networking, and stuff like that, which is stuff I do on my own, regardless, because my company depends on it. But as far as the peak prime time to create is diminished, not in a bad sense or connotation, in the sense that more of it, was based on having this reflection. And guess what? That's where the breakthrough is. It's in having this moment of reflection. Some of my loved ones are so beautiful that they don't even realize it. Yet inside, they're so broken. And my entire life, all I have been doing is picking up the little pieces to their mind, their souls, their spirit, but especially their hearts. And even though I'm holding a bucket of broken heart pieces, and to me they're beautiful rubies, right? Beautiful red diamonds, it's hard for them to see the full shape of their beautiful heart themselves because all they can see in the shards is a broken version or portion of themselves. It's very easy for them to see the emptiness in the glass of water. They don't see that half of that beautiful glass has the shape of their hearts. Half of that glass is full of potential for them to be everything that they ever wanted to be, that there has to be no prejudice, no judgment, no compromise. They could do anything that they want. It doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are. It doesn't matter what their favorite drink is, whether it's tea or coffee. It doesn't matter if they travel the world or if they haven't. It doesn't matter if they graduated from Pepperdine or if they didn't. It doesn't matter. Times have changed. We as people have also evolved and changed. Some people are still fighting the status quo. Some people still want to live in that darkness because it's easy to stay the same. It's easier to stay the same than it is to change. Your body is made up of cells. Every cell is like the voting right or voting share in a corporation. You control 51% of the corporation, you control the corporation. You don't have to own 100% of the company to be the owner, just 51%. In your body, it's a constant battle. You have two construction sites, there's two foremans. One builds positive things, the other destroys. And by default, builds negative things. In your cell, inside of your body, in your mind, in your psyche, everything in your soul that makes you who you are, there's this constant battle. I could give it my all, give 100%, or I can just hold back. I can really, really go for my dreams and face all the challenges that are coming, or I could just stay the same. I could criticize myself to the point where I can bask in this glory, in this cesspool of negativity, and just spread that and then complain that things don't change. Or I can think outside of the box and say, you know what? What can I do better today? Did I speak to a person in a way that I can improve? Did I treat a person in a way that I can grow from? Can I grow upon a situation? Can I give more love and support and less judgment? Can I keep criticism to a minimum? Can I take away the poison darts so that they're not causing more damage? When a person comes to me for love, support, and understanding, am I delivering that or do I have a basis for a bias? Am I promoting my own political or psychological agenda through other things that I do? If I'm looking at life, which is the results of my decisions and my actions, and I don't like the results, the change has to come from within me, correct? Are my loved ones, my relatives, my family members, my peers, my colleagues, even my friends, are they able to do that? Yes, they are. It's a frequency. Success is a frequency. Pursuing your dreams is a frequency. Fighting harder for the things that you love, that are in your beautiful mind and soul and spirit, is a frequency. Just like selecting, making the conscious choice not to pursue your dreams is a choice. Just like being passive aggressive or passive abusive is also a choice, where a person can choose to see only the negative. These are all choices. Can my loved ones, my family members, my relatives, my friends, my peers, my colleagues, are they able, do they have the capacity, the human capacity to realize this behavior, these gestures, these actions, these words lead to destruction? Are they able to see that they're also able to change the gear? As beautiful and as talented as my family is, there's heavy drug use in my family, there's heavy alcoholism in my family, there's heavy depression in my family, there's lack of support, there's abandonment, there's abuse, there's neglect, some physical, some verbal, some psychological, some emotional, some financial. How can I share my perspective based on my education, my training, my discipline, my own experiences, myself, not given to me? I had to seek out this knowledge and this understanding so that I can have the love, to have the compassion, to focus on rebuilding, not just on what is destroyed. How can I convey this to my loved ones? It's never too late. There is enough time. We can do it. United as a family, we can stand. We can be family, but we can also be friends. We can be the source of support. We can be the source of love. We can be the source of understanding. There does not have to be a need for a compromise. If we can support the youngest of the family members, we can support the oldest of the family members and everybody in between. Why are we continuing to contribute to a cesspool of negativity where nobody's able to dream? Nobody's able to think outside of the box. It's a crime to have a dream in my family. There's a love tax to be paid. One of the best things that my family is great at is abandonment. They will block your phone number. They will stop answering your messages. They will stop receiving your calls. They will turn their backs on you and let you rot away and die. Wither away, starting from your soul, your mind, your spirit, your thoughts, all alone. And they will not only watch it, they'll have a barbecue watching you destroy yourself or watching things destroy you. It's like seeing an animal fall into uh, a nest of ants, knowing that you only have a few minutes to try to rescue that animal because over time, those ants will attack and paralyze that animal and start literally shredding that thing to pieces and doing nothing about it. Where did that behavior come from? Where was that competition started? What is the nucleus? We have some of the most beautiful descendants that you can imagine. I have family members that are my elders, people that were historical figures, that you only see mimicked artistically, creatively in plays, in stories, and in movies. Movies about love, life, and adventure. Yet, this trait is seen, is shared, is propagated amongst all of my loved ones. There are very few, such as myself, that are critical, free thinking, that can clearly see I don't know the whole picture. I don't have it all figured out, but I know enough to know that this is not right and that this needs to change and that this is not circumstantial. This is biological. This is learned behavior. You cannot tell me otherwise. That's what I specialize in. Where was this behavior learned? How is it that it has propagated generations over generations? I am just a mirror reflecting their image. I represent their fears, their doubts, their worries, their insecurities, their feelings of hopelessness, their impotence, their focus on what they're lacking instead of the perspective shift into everything that they have. I can feel that this is a spiritual battle because when I have to go that deep and discuss these topics, which I know all of my family members and friends are all going to partake in this lecture, in this discussion. They'll never admit it publicly. But even if it's in the last few hours that they're up, when they're all by themselves, all alone, they're going to go on YouTube. They're going to click on my channel. They're going to go through my class in psychology just to learn about themselves because they know that they are the case studies in all of my psychology series. You can find them in my music. You can find them in my books. You can find them in my master classes. You can find them in my courses. Why is that? And it is the elephant in the room. They choose not to speak that language. They don't understand. Yet they're the subjects that we're talking about. They're the topic. They're the discussion. They're chapter one. They're chapter two. They're chapter three. They're chapter four. Why as many breakthroughs and marvels as I'm able to break through and puncture in life, right? Pushing through the ether, saying, nope, this is not the end all be all. No, things will never be the same because I'm here now. And this is how we're going to change everything because I'm going to put it to the forefront of their attention. This is family therapy. This is group therapy. This is educational elements of life. It can be used for business. It can be whatever you want it to be, as big as you want it to be, as a mountain or the universe, or as small as a grain of sand or the size of a mustard seed or the size of a quantum atom. This is not a one size fits all. This conversation is not for everybody, but those that is for are listening very carefully, very clearly to all of these concepts. And this is what I want all of them to know. They're loved, they're supported, they're understood, and this is not the end of the story, it's the beginning. It is not too late. We fight the good fight every day. United as a family, we stand. I could be the richest, wealthiest entrepreneur, artist, whatever. And if my family is still struggling, I am still a piece of shit. If I don't go and help the world, if I don't go help God's people, I'm still a piece of shit. No matter how many fancy watches or cars or this, that, and the jewelry, whatever the fuck I could buy. Money can't buy everything. This is important to me because the universe is asking me to pay a tax, a path of righteousness, a rite of passage tax. In order for me to grow and go to the next level, I have to make sure that I heal these wounds from the inside out, even if only with one person in my family, even if only one of my peers or my colleagues or my friends or my loved ones overall, even if it's just one of my children. These are the concepts that Hollywood is not going to glamorize. You're not going to find this in a book. You can't download this. You can't order it offline. It has to be born from within. You have to have the desire for things to be better. I used a business opportunity to open another portal in another chamber to try to include my family so that they could see it for themselves. Things didn't work out, but good still came out of the situation. So, what can I do? Share it with them to help them in their growth. Make it a part of the psychology series so my students can use this for their finals, graduate, go get that internship, go get that job, breakthrough in that industry, trade, or career field, and make a difference in the world because one person could change the world. I happen to be one of those people. For my loved ones, if there's anything that I would want them to know, is that here they are loved. Here they are respected. Here they are honored, they're understood, and they're supported. Even if they themselves cannot see all of their great, amazing, and beautiful attributes, I'm able to overlook the broken pieces of their minds, their souls, their spirits, their psyche, and their hearts. And not only am I able to see the broken pieces, I'm able to pick them up and put them in a container and little by little infuse my love to fuse those broken pieces and show them all of the pieces that are not yet broken and that are not yet damaged. So today has been an amazing day of not just pullback, but growth, understanding, a breakthrough moment that will live forever in time, that anything is possible, that to do something positive is more powerful than anything that's negative, that if we have a family member whose dream is to own a restaurant, we should support that person instead of trying to compete with their macaroni and cheese or their pizza or their sauce or their rice or their beans. That if we have a family member that wants to play cricket instead of baseball, we support that family member. That if they want to play tennis instead of playing golf, it's okay. That if they want to drive a truck instead of a sports car, that's all right too. Or if they just want to drive an economy box, that's okay. Whether they drive a hybrid or an electric vehicle, that's okay. Whether they live by the beach or by the mountains, whether it's a hot climate, tropical Amazon rainforest, or it's in the mountains in the cold in the wilderness. We all have the power to love. We all have the power to support. We all have the power to understand. Is there a family member, a relative, a loved one that you may have mistreated, that you may have offended, that you may be able to maybe not necessarily apologize to right now, but just send a little bit of love in the direction of that person? What differences could that make? What kind of change could that implement if we all did that every day, even in the slightest way? Success is inevitable if we're all on the same page, moving in the same direction at the same time. What happens when we lower down our tone of voice? What happens when we think about things before we say them? What happens when we reserve our feelings of entitlement and justification to show restraint? When we want to say some hurtful, evil shit, we just say, you know what? For every hurtful, evil shit that I think about, let me say 12 positive things, not 12. Knowing that a negative thought is less powerful than a positive one, and we can prove it with science. One moment like this can change everything. I have family members that are on drugs, alcoholics, manic depressive. That's just the beginning. Multiple personalities, um, schizophrenia, uh, what else? Alzheimer's, just negative, you know, behaviors, right? The antidote to that is love, it's clarity, transparency, understanding, talking about things in a way that is loving and coming from a place of love, in a way that builds more pillars or foundations to build greater things. You have to love this universe to want to stay stuck in this universe, not me. I see the future. I see how things can only get better. I had to solve these problems before I negotiate anything with my music catalog because I don't want to negotiate that catalog and deal with these same problems because I don't want to turn my backs on those people that would turn their backs on me that already have multiple times over multiple generations in my lifetime alone. I can only imagine how many times they've done it before. I don't want to have these problems and these challenges when the time comes to go to the promised land of milk and honey. And that is my challenge. How do I balance all of these things out? Or do I just walk away from my whole family? Do I just stop answering the phone? Do I just stop reaching out? Do I just stop being sympathetic uh, or compassionate about their situation? What if I just leave them in the darkness and see them go to the ruins? That would make me just like them. That would expand and propagate the sickness and the disease instead of bringing the healing, which we all desperately need. What if we just gave love? How would things be different if we just used the greatest weapon God can ever have given us? The power to love, the power to care, the power to help. Then what? For all my loved ones, I want you to think about that. For my students, I want you to write about that. 5 pages, 5 paragraphs, 5 sentences each, 5 computer line spaces in between. If you write it before you type it up, or if you print it before you write it up, show the work. Email it to me in a PDF file or just email it to me in any format that you like. You can use Google Docs if you like. cyrexplex@gmail.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is all the time that we have for today. I have to go back to being half man, half amazing. I have a little music project to put together. But I want to thank you for taking the time to have this gathering of the mind. We'll see you guys on the next one. God bless.